On November 20th, 2025, Local 12 reporter James Pilcher had a story about the lawsuit by Jason and Nicole Babinec against Milford Exempted Village School District, Aaron Zupka, me, and 4 other people. That story, I thought, is emblematic of the bad reporting that takes place in Cincinnati by these major media outlets. It's also emblematic of why Local 12, who used to dominate local news, has been overtaken in that role. Remember, I had done a 13 or 14-minute interview with James Pilcher earlier in the day on November 20th. It does not appear that he did anything to research the story that he put out other than get it from Signal 99, which he told me. His source for the story was Signal 99. He did not check the records. He did not ask any fundamental questions. He did not say anything about the Babinec's prior attempt to get a protection order against me. There's lots of things to keep unpacking as time goes by. But for today, what I'm going to have right here is me dissecting James Pilcher's story from yesterday, November 20th, 2025.
New tonight, a lawsuit could prove costly for a tri-state school district and several individuals. It stems from what a former girls' high school wrestling coach says are false rumors regarding sexual misconduct.
Okay, let's start with how Local 12 introduces a story. Now, an appropriate introduction to this story might be, who is Jason Babinec? How is he connected to Milford women's wrestling? And why all of the sudden is this Jason Babinec suing the school district, Aaron Zupka, the athletic director, and 5 other people? That might have been a good introduction, but instead you get this salacious somebody suing and it's going to potentially cost a lot of money. This is Local 12. They've done no research. They didn't cover this story for months. For months, they ignored the story.
This comes as the district's athletic director is placed on leave for unspecified reason.
So let's connect the dots. False rumors and unspecified reasons. That's Local 12, the champion team.
Local 12's James Pilcher has been digging into this all day. He's live in our studio. James, what did you find?
So let's remember, he told me he sourced the story from Signal 99. He's been investigating it all day, but he didn't do any investigation of any note for months. For months, when this was a known situation going on in Milford schools and their women's wrestling program.
Jason Babinec was the first girls' high school wrestling coach for Milford ever for the Milford High School. He says he stepped down voluntarily in 2023, but earlier...
Well, when did he say that, James? Did you interview him? Did you ask him a question about why did he voluntarily step down in 2023? Or even better, did you look at the records? Okay, did you even remotely look at the records? There's 800 pages of records, and they're littered with different allegations, different events, tying all this together. But James Pilcher, he just says the guy voluntarily resigned. Nothing else to see here. That may be the case. Maybe there is nothing else to see here. But if James Pilcher was a real investigative reporter, he would note that that the records associated with this have a variety of different things about this particular issue of this stepping down.
This week, he filed suit against that school district, the coach who succeeded him, as well as Milford's athletic director, a teen parent, and a citizen journalist. Babinec says he's been the target of false rumors.
So false rumors. So this is James Pilcher, the top number one, probably thinks he's the best investigative reporter in the city. He isn't. But it's false rumors. So he doesn't even say what those quote unquote, what the general gist is of what's happened at Milford or what has alleged to have happened at Milford's wrestling program. He doesn't say that at all. And for James Pilcher, it's false rumors. Okay. So with no research whatsoever, as far as I can tell.
The 27-page lawsuit filed in Claremont County Common Pleas Court Monday accuses 7 defendants, including the Milford School District, of helping spread what the Babinec family says are false rumors of possible sexual misconduct. The suit also alleges several defendants released or published private information about the Babinec's daughter, who was once on the wrestling team. We should note she was not the subject of any of the rumors.
Okay, so when I did an interview with this man Pilcher, I said I have no idea of any release of information relating to the Babinec's daughter. Frankly, I didn't even know. I know they had a daughter. I didn't know what her name was or anything like that. I've told him there's 815 pages of records. I wonder what he did. I mean, all day he's looking into this, right? Did he look at the 800 pages or 812 pages of records to identify? Does there seem to be anything in any of these records that relates to Babinec's daughter? Like I said, I didn't even know her name. Now, since then, I've tried to determine what is her name purely for the purposes of being that I'm diligent, unlike James Pilcher, I wanted to go through the records and see was there something in here about this person? And so if I figured out, sleuthed her correct name and searched the records, I still am at a loss. I can't find anything in any records. As far as I can tell, maybe I'm missing. There's 812 pages, a lot of pages, but I guarantee you I'm doing more than James Pilcher's doing. He's just flipping shit out on baseless allegations, as far as I can tell, when he has the ability to research them in public records to see if there's any substantiation. But he doesn't do that. I don't know why he doesn't do that. Maybe he could explain that. He could also explain why Local 12 didn't cover this story for months.
A Milford District spokesman declined to comment on this pending litigation. The district could have the most to lose if the Babinec's win. One of the individual defendants is Milford Athletic Director Aaron Zupka. The district sponsored an independent investigation earlier this year that found Zupka did not comply with mandatory reporting expectations once told of possible sexual misconduct regarding the wrestling program. Zupka's lawyer, Paige Richardson.
So let's pause there for a second. That investigation he's referring to also mentions Babinec. Why isn't James Pilcher saying that? Why is he just talking about it in the context of one person and not the other, specifically when he's doing a story on a lawsuit involving the Babinec family?
Did not return messages seeking comment, but told Local 12 last week the administrative leave was not connected.
Mr. Zipka's leave is unrelated to any prior investigations by the school district, in particular the incident involving the former wrestling coach. As far as Mr. Zupka and I are aware, Mr. Zupka is not currently under investigation for any misconduct related to mandated reporting.
The lawsuit.
Okay, so let's stop here again. This stellar investigative reporting from James Pilcher. Doesn't it beg the question, if he's not on suspension due to alleged failure to report things that need to be reported, what is he on suspension for? What is he on suspension for? Did Local 12 ask that question? Did they get an answer to that question? Or is that not the way we roll at Local 12? We don't worry about, having any sort of common sense questions somebody with an IQ higher than 90 would ask about this. If he's not on suspension for that, what is he on suspension for? Why isn't James Pilcher even saying that? Why doesn't he come back from this saying, we've tried to figure out why Aaron Zupka is on suspension then, if it's not for this? But he doesn't even say that. He just moves on.
He also alleges at least one of the assistant coaches working under Babinec's successor was not licensed to work as required to work with minors. Wrestling parent Brittany Thomason also is.
Okay, let's stop there. I don't even know I have no idea whether what he says is true or not. I have no idea whether the coaches, I think it's the two, I don't know the people, they're on the lawsuit, whether they were paid or volunteer coaches, and that could have an effect. But I don't know the veracity of that. But here's my point. Why didn't James Pilcher look into that? I mean, I guess I'm kind of clueless here. He reports out somebody didn't have a license. I guess because Jason Babinec said it in a lawsuit, something in a lawsuit, Pilcher just runs with it. Signal 99 says run with it, so James Pilcher's running with it. No attempt whatsoever on the part of James Pilcher to vet whether the statements James Pilcher, is making on air have any validity whatsoever. Or if they are relevant. Again, I don't know what people's licensing status is. I don't know when if there's a difference between a paid coach, which Babinec was, Tony Brothers was, Courtney Walls. These are all public employees versus volunteer coaches, and the difference in the licensing requirement. But I don't have the resources that Local 12 does. I'm just an individual guy, the watchdog wire. I'm not James Pilcher with all the resources of Local 12.
Named in the suit. She filed a complaint against several wrestling coaches and the athletic director with the Ohio High School Athletics Association back in May. She declined to go on camera, but says she was surprised to hear about the suit as she has yet to be served.
Okay, again, why aren't they reporting what was in this this complaint? I mean, it's just like, we'll throw it up on the screen, but we don't want to actually get into any substance related to this. We're here to report that Babinec has a lawsuit, and we don't want to have to actually vet anything or do any real investigative work.
Thomason also told me she felt the lawsuit was a way to quiet anyone raising concerns about the past and present situation surrounding Milford's wrestling program. Also named as citizen journalist.
By the way, that's what's so bizarre about this. Supposedly the Babinecs are doing this because they want to be out of the limelight, okay? But somebody's putting this so it gets on Signal 99 with a manifesto. James Pilcher's following up on it. Later we're going to have a statement from the Babinecs. Something just feels very odd about this. And by the way, I did like a 14-minute interview. This is what they took out of it, which is a total of 13 seconds.
Journalist Chris Hicks, accused in the lawsuit of spreading the rumors, plus publishing private...
Spreading the rumors, okay? This is a hack journalist, okay? So it's not reporting on the allegations that were contained in voluminous school records. That's not what it is. It's spreading the rumors. That's James Pilcher, okay? This guy probably got awards for his great journalism. This is what's become of corporate media.
Information about the Babinec's daughter. Information this suit claims Milford failed to redact when releasing documents. Since May, Hicks posted...
So I've looked through all of these documents. I just searched through them. I've text indexed them. I do the best I can. I can't find anything. And James Pilcher could do that, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. Hey, I wonder who's being reckless. I wonder who's being reckless in reporting. Creating the insinuation that I released something about their daughter that I didn't even know who their daughter was. When I look through the documents, I can't find anything in the school documents about their daughter, but it is 812 pages. I asked Pilcher, show me where it is, but he don't have time for that. He doesn't have time to do actual quality reporting.
Several stories and interviews regarding the wrestling program, and says he stands by his reporting.
This isn't a private matter, like something was happening in somebody's individual company. These people were involved in coaching at Milford High School, and obviously there's been great turmoil within that program.
Now, I tried to reach out to that former coach as well as those two assistant coaches, but either couldn't get in touch with them or they didn't respond in time for this story. Back to you guys.
James, thank you. The lawsuit seeks damages for emotional distress, public humiliation, and loss of employment opportunities. If they win, the Babinecs want a...
What's so bizarre about this is it seems like, the Babinec's going after these protection orders against people, going after a protection order against me, this whole thing, it being on Signal 99, but supposedly I or somebody else is what's created their emotional distress. It seems like they're the ones that are publicizing this. They're the ones that are putting it into the limelight, and that's, I guess, their prerogative. But it's how are we going to separate out the emotional distress caused by this story, for example, versus others, or is it just very selective?
Jury to determine the payout. In a statement to Local 12, the Babinec said in part, quote, "The goal of this action is to correct the record, hold those responsible to account, and restore peace and dignity to a family that has endured unjust scrutiny for far too long."
I'm just kind of taken aback. I don't know what scrutiny they endured. The scrutiny has come because of their own actions in many cases, because them going after protection orders, so on and so forth. And in the scrutiny, I guess they have a statement here. Pilcher told me that he thought they did an interview with WXIX, but I haven't seen that, at least at present. And it's like, why don't you just appear on camera and answer the actual broader set of questions? Why did you resign? Why did you move on? There's a whole slew of allegations that are part of the school's records. Why don't you address those? Why don't you? Nobody said that because somebody made an allegation, it means it's true. But there is an allegation, and it's worth investigating. And maybe James Pilcher maybe if Local 12 had an actual investigative reporter, they would do investigating versus the kind of news story that they're doing here.